I would like to introduce Sofia Aves. She is a phenomenal woman. She lives down under in Australia. She has done a couple of different spotlights on romance for us, and she was recently a featured speaker in the Writing Romance Mastery Summit last month. So today you're going to talk to us about branding. I'm so excited about that. Thank you very much, Sofia.
No, you too. Thank you for having me back on again. Mastery Summit was fantastic. I got so many messages back from that. It was great. You guys did such a wonderful job, honestly. So, do you want me just to
just go
on?
Ahead. Yeah, just come in and share with us everything that you want to share with us. I'm not going to ask questions unless something comes into my head. And if anybody has questions, you can either raise your hand or put a question in the, I don't see a chat down there. I don't even see a question and answer down there. Let me see. Well, I suppose the best thing to do is, there's the chat. Yes. So if you have any questions, just put it in the chat. I will monitor the chat. And other than that, if Sofia wants any kind of elaboration on your questions, she can unmute you or I can unmute you and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, we had a little chat going a couple of months ago talking about author branding and what it takes to sort of get your books out there and work out who you are as an author and all that sort of stuff. And I had this whole little speech prepared, and then 2 weeks ago, I got hit with the worst bout of imposter syndrome I think I've ever had, and it's still like I live with this daily, and I wanted to do a little tiny bit on imposter syndrome because I don't think it is talked about as much as we need to. We talk about it in posts, sometimes it comes up in podcasts, but we don't always show how deeply it can affect us and how it can affect our writing and day-to-day life, and then the products that we then go on or don't go on to produce, because it hits us so bad, which is the reason I didn't do my hair, I didn't do my makeup today, because I wanted to do this completely just me. It is boiling hot here. I've got the aircon on, and I just wanted to do this completely normal me. This is what I look like as an author every day. I don't wear my pajamas, but I do wear shorts and a little singlet top and a sports bra that I've had since I was breastfeeding, and that was 8 years ago. So, you know, I wanted to show we don't always have this beautiful, you know, made up face and the gorgeous golden hair, or, you know, whatever we're supposed to look like. We're not movie stars, we're authors. It is okay to hide. Yeah, absolutely, keeping it real, LEG style. Trying to keep, yep, I've lost it. Trying to keep absolutely real who we are and what we do each day. That bout of imposter syndrome crippled me for the first time in over 3 years. I didn't write for a week. I write every single day. I have to. It is a compulsion. There are so many stores. Lindsay, can you mute for me, darling?
Excuse me, Lindsay, will you mute you? Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Abe. Sofia.
Yeah. That's right. There's so many stories in my head, and I don't know what anybody else's head's like, but we talk about bag of cats in there. I have many bags of cats, and they're all playing ball together with the same piece of cotton. It is madhouse in there. If I don't get stuff down, it doesn't work for me. I know my process. I've got a spreadsheet that I live off that used to terrify me, and I work through it day to day and work through which stories need to come out next in order to make all the deadlines, because there is just so much going on. I've probably taken on a bit too much this year. That's okay. I'm enjoying it. It's good fun. But then I started to look at my pre-orders. I started to look at my sales. I turned off some ads, and it all flatlined, and I panicked. And it hit me that, you know, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not an author. Who am I kidding? I'm a self-published author. I do some little indie things. I've got books going out with my agent to big publishing houses. Who the hell am I kidding? I'm not this big person who's ever going to get a huge advance. I'll be able to completely live off my income. I pay for my kids' education and my alpacas at the moment. That's about my limit. And, you know, who am I kidding? And I wallowed in that for a solid week before I woke up one day and the normal energy returned, and I was able to keep going. And that period, that crippling period, I look back and I have a spreadsheet. I track what I do every day. I track my word count. I track what promotional activities I do that day. I track what I did that day that wore me out, whether it was that I had a sick kid at home and didn't get time to write. So anything that I can look back and go, it's a trend. I did a lot of writing on that day, but I had more time to do it. I was sick that week, whatever I needed to do. And I can go back through the year and go, okay, these are my most productive months, and it helps me streamline my process. For a solid week, I didn't fill it in because I was ashamed that I was doing nothing, because I identified by being productive. And I've always been like that in any workplace. And for me, this is my workplace. It's also fun, but it happens to also be my workplace. And that is part of my author brand as well, is getting these books out and doing all these things because I enjoy it. And that's what I identify with. That down week killed me. And I look back and I've tried to fill in, I've even tried to kid myself to fill in that I did some things during that week, but I know I didn't. I didn't send out a newsletter. I didn't do anything on TikTok. I hate TikTok. I ignore that. You should be on TikTok. Go and promote your books. I just hate it. I didn't do anything with my groups. I didn't do a podcast. I didn't do anything at all. No writing, no plotting, nothing at all. And I just wanted to say that out loud, because anybody who feels that way hourly, daily, for a whole week or month or for a whole year, you are not alone. We all feel it every day. I've heard from one lady that she doesn't have imposter syndrome. I would debate that and say that she's had it, but she's managed to push it to the side or ignore it, and she's done very, very well with that. I would say that most of us suffer from imposter syndrome, if not all of us, every day, and it's okay. Try and find a way to pick yourself up and push the thoughts aside and get some words down, because if the words make you happy, then it will make you happier and you'll be able to move forward and you won't have to suffer as much for it. So try and find things, if it's a walk in the garden, if it's drawing, whatever it is, find that piece of happiness that you can go, no, I know this. For me, you're welcome, mate. For me, it is arming myself with all the information that I can on publishing and writing and marketing, so that I look at my work and go, no, I know what I'm doing, push that crap aside and get on with the job. But that works for me. It is not going to work for everyone. I know my head is really, really weird. We've talked about the bags of cats. So yeah, anyway, I really wanted to put that down. Becca Syme does some fantastic stuff on strengths for writers. I got the privilege of talking to her, although I didn't get time to sit into her course at a conference last year, and she was absolutely fantastic. Everybody walked out saying how wonderful she was and how much they got out of it, the benefits that they got out of that talk. So if you have a chance to work with her, absolutely do. Imposter syndrome is something all industries. So thank you for putting that up, Linda. Across all industries. I used to think it was just creatives when I first started, because I could recognize how an artist, a painter or a sculptor could feel like we do. Then I started talking to Hubs, who's an exec, and a couple of his mates from work, and they all struggle just as much before they go into a pitch in a big event, before they go into a conference, something that they're pushing that they want to go through their own workplace. They all describe the same sorts of feelings without prompting that we experience as well. New teacher decades ago, absolutely. Becca Syme, BEC, hang on, I'll put it in the top, in the chat. It's Becca Syme, strengths for writers. There you go. That's in the chat. Okay. Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to go through that briefly because it hit me so hard, and there is no point doing all the marketing, branding and all the author voice and all the rest of it if we don't have confidence that what we've got is something beautiful and magical that needs to go out into the world. And it does, because if you don't write your book, someone's favorite book will never be out there. They'll never be able to find their favorite author if you don't put your work out there. So it's your duty, if you've got a story to tell, to get it out there to somebody else so that they can read it. Thank you. Honestly, I'm fighting back tears, so cheers. And I'll tell you what, 2 years ago, I would never have said I would sit here and talk on camera about anything that was unscripted, get my face on camera. I would have just had the background up. And today I really just, yeah, I'm just me. So you get to that point where you can divulge a lot more, I think, as you grow in your career as well, because you have all the pitfalls. And please look, don't make my mistakes, make your own damn mistakes, learn from all mine. And I've made a lot. Author branding. So it's what I'm actually supposed to be talking about 15 minutes into the chat. Great. So author branding. The biggest thing that I found with author branding, and it was something that JJ King messaged me about 3 months after I started writing, and it was from one of the romance connection books or groups on Facebook, romance, Level Up Romance Writers. And she messaged me out of the blue, big P&R author, had the USA Today slogan on the front of her books. And I was like, oh my God, why is she messaging me? What have I done wrong in the chats? And she said to me, you're not consistent. Your branding isn't consistent. Go and look at your books, go and look at your branding. None of it screams consistency. There is nothing to identify with that your readers can look at and go, that's a Sofia book. And that's the last I ever heard from JJ, who was lovely. And now I follow and read because I absolutely adore her. She was right. I had at that point 3 covers by 3 different designers, and 2 of them were pre-mades. One was completely off market for a series that's now complete. They were the only 3 books I had out, and then I'd written a P&R which came out the next year. None of them looked alike. There was nothing across the board that joined with my logo that I got made, which I still use and I adore. There was nothing across the board for that group, for those books that looked anything like a series or an author. So the fonts weren't the same, the colours weren't the same. The colours didn't match my author logo. One of them was completely off-brand, looked less like a police procedural with romance and heat than it did a billionaire club romance. I literally just changed that cover 4 months ago after all that time, because it took me 3 goes to get that cover to work the way that I wanted to. So I contacted a designer that I liked, and I said, look, I've got these 2 books out. I've got these 3 coming because I rapid release constantly all next year. Can I get covers for these? And once the series is complete, can we go back and recover the first 3 books? And so we did. And it made a whopping difference. That first cover for book 1 sold 34,000 copies. It sold another 20,000 since we've recovered it, and a lot more page reads. But book 2, which is the one that I've had to recover several times, only started selling 2 weeks ago because it was off market. It wasn't consistent with my branding. You couldn't even tell it was part of that series. And because I had made the mistake, don't make this one for me, on Amazon where it says series and related content, I clicked on related content and it disappeared into the quagmire and was never seen ever again. Nobody could find it. Make sure it's main content, number the whole lot. Even if it's a novella and it's a 0.5, just deal with it. OCD, please deal with it, and make sure it's main content. It is invisible otherwise on Amazon. When you search on your pages, on your search pages, it will not come up. So main content. I started to think about what I wanted Sofia to be. Sofia is not my real name. My real name is Jo Saisner. I've got 4 pen names. I wanted to work out who Sofia was. I wanted to see what she would be writing. I stuck with romantic suspense, romance, and veterans. If my books do not have one of those 3 things in them, or all 3, I will rewrite to add in that element because it needs to stay consistent to what the readers expect of me. Some of my favourite authors, I read a lot of RH, C.M. Stonich and K.G. Roos. I'll probably mangled those names, sorry guys. They both do great cliffhangers. They have a lot of bromance. They have fights within the bromance. Their protagonists are always sweet girls, but they have a really kinky side to them. They are things that if I pick up those books, I know to expect that even if they cross genres. So going from college romance to motorcycle romance to high school romance, they're consistent across their brands. So I wanted to make sure that I was also consistent across those things so I could still write, and I write a lot at Christmas as well. Christmas is a big part of my brand, which you guys saw, anybody that was on earlier before I changed my background, that was my Christmas cover. And I wanted to make sure that when a reader picked up those books, they got what they expected out of them while I could still grow as an author without upsetting the apple cart. We all talk about writing to market, but you also need to write to brand. If you're going to go a long way off brand, make a new pen name. But it has to be a long, long, long way off brand. So I had 2 P&Rs under Sofia. They didn't sell a whit. I think I sold 112 copies of one and 28 of another, and they've been sitting there for 2 years. I'm in the process of shifting them across to Raven Hush, which is my paranormal pen name that I created last year. And I believe they will do a whole lot better there because I have a whole newsletter created for those people that I drive my paranormal romance to. If people from my contemporary also want to read paranormal, great, they can see that. But they were doing absolutely nothing compared to the rest of my books, which are cops, cowboys, military, Texas Rangers. Some Christmas in there. Stick with your colours. Know what your colour schemes are for each series, for your brand, and wear them. So my colours currently are rose gold and aqua, which is, no, I'm on the wrong side, that side. The aqua on the cover there. This is a new book coming out March, and it's a new series, and it is starting to get into a new area, but it is still a bodyguard, so it's still romantic suspense. He's still a veteran, so I've covered both my bases there. So hopefully the people who go into that and read something that is a light rom-com will come from my darker undercover cops who really struggle with which side of the law they're on, and will still come across to this and still see they're grumpy blokes. They've still got their veterans in there, and it still looks something similar to what I do while branching out into a new area. This is a bit of a hit or miss for me. My ads kicked in 2 days ago, and thank God it's selling, so that's great. Because again, imposter syndrome, I went through my publisher that I worked for and said, look, I'll be the guinea pig for a brand new line. And then it sort of did nothing for 3 weeks, and I'm sitting there panicking, going, "Oh God, what have I done? And who am I letting down? Not just me, but if it's me and it flops, that's a whole lot easier than dealing with something that I'm doing for somebody else and it flops. That's a whole different kettle of fish for me. So we've reworked it. We've redone the ads. I put in new categories this morning, and it seems to be working. So that's great. Keep your brand colour consistent to what you're doing with Instagram, Facebook.
Excuse me, Sophia. I don't know if it's your internet that's kind of breaking up, or if it's mine.
No,
it's Sophia.
Probably be so let me know if it's not coming through.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Fingers crossed. It comes through. Okay, so keep your colours and your content consistent across all your social, your Amazon pages, your AAA, A+ for Amazon information. Keep it consistent. Make sure that you have your series branding on your website and other places where people can click on it and see it, so that they relate that particular branding back to your author brand. Your author brand is the umbrella for everything. It is not a book or a cover or a series or a piece of merch. It is the umbrella that covers everything from your fonts to your colors to the way that I want somebody to pick up a book and go, that is a Sofia cover. I know that's a Sofia cover. Across your different genres, make sure that your name looks the same on the bottom of your books. I'm breaking that with this particular book, but I'm breaking into a new genre. So hopefully, again, I'm trying to stick with what bridge that gap between writing to market and writing something that and having a cover that looks what the readers want to buy, and as well as it stays within my own brand. So we haven't changed too much, but we've changed a little bit. Excuse me. Are you guys hearing me okay?
I'm hearing you okay.
Awesome. Okay. The other part of author branding that is critical is your author voice. I don't think we think of author voice as what we put in our books, but your author voice is this one that you're hearing right now. It's in your socials posts. It's in your TikTok videos. It's when you go around the corner and say to somebody that you've written a book. It's when you go to the post office and you collect your books. Your author voice is in everything you do, because people start to associate your brand with you. If you turn up at a conference or a show or a signing, you need to be able to relate your dress, your voice, the way you behave with the voice in your books. When you write your newsletter, write in your author voice. It doesn't have to be through a character. It can still be something that you are writing as part of your author life that you've put in the top of your newsletter or wherever you put that for you. But please, definitely make sure that your author voice is consistent across the board. If it's a created persona, before you walk out the door that morning, put it on. It's like a hat. Put your author persona on. Some people like to dress up for work. If they're at home, we've all been through this with COVID, I think. There are stats that say if you dress for your job, you'll perform better. It is also a mental capacity. If you don't put the mental part of your persona on before you start, it just doesn't work out who you are and who you need to be as an author and who you're reaching. So know who your reader is, also know who you are, and make that little bridge in the middle because you're trying to get those words across to your reader. Paula, anything you specifically want me to talk about?
Well, you know, one thing that you did say, and I do want to ask about that, because when I started to write, I love historical romance. I love the early 1800s, but not necessarily Regency, because I prefer to write about in the United States rather than Regency. And, you know, I came out with my first book, started on a second book, and like, it was like, don't know what it is. Ended up using The Tail End of a Dream to practice write with, and that flourished into an entire book, which became then a duology, and they are contemporary romance. I don't ever plan to write contemporary romance before, so to me it isn't worth it to go and do a new pen name. But I still have these two contemporary romance books that are sitting out there under Paula Judith Johnson, and I really don't know what to do with it. It has nothing to do with my brand. Any advice on that?
Find the brand. It's sort of like finding the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I don't know if you guys got me, because that dropped out for a second there for me.
Oh, I'm sorry. So here I have these two contemporaries. Never plan to do it again. What do I do with that?
Yeah, leave them there. Yeah, for one or two books, slightly off brand, it's not going to hurt you. Don't worry about it too much. I'm mainly looking back at the mess I made of my first pen name, which is Hi Real Me, was all my kidlit 16 picture books, 80 plus spec fix, anthologies, flash fiction. There's some sexy stuff in there. There's some dry stuff. There's magical stuff. There's dark stuff. And it's just this really big mess. There's even one dystopian fiction, which I will probably end up getting moved across to Raven. I would love to clean that platform off completely and just leave it as kidlit, which is why when I created Sophia and Raven, and there's another one that's not out yet, that I made distinct lanes to stay within. There was one there about a non-fiction book, inspirational non-fiction book, and now you're writing romance. My only question would be is, if you're writing an inspirational non-fiction book, do you mean inspirational as in uplifting, or do you mean inspirational as in Christian? Because if you're writing romance and you've got sex scenes in there and it's a Christian non-fiction book, I would separate them. If it's not, I don't think you'd have a problem. I'm currently writing a book on pitching, a non-fiction book on pitching. It'll be the first one. I've got a couple plotted. I'm putting it with this pen name because this is where my marketing persona is. I wouldn't bother putting it with Joe because nobody knows who Joe is, and that's the way I'd like to keep it. You know, so it makes no sense to put that book out as Joe. It makes more sense to put that book out for me as Sophia. I have two pen names. Oh, hang on, that moved. No, I have a question. Pen name, different genres. Yeah, I really would recommend separating your editing business out. Absolutely. Based and just, you can always link them. You can still have a link to this is my writing, or this is a website of my writing with an editing page. I've seen that done quite well too. And the main reason I say this is I've watched an agent on Twitter cripple her writing business by having quite a few derogatory comments about authors who aren't selling, but she has her literary agency pen name on the same name as her books. And then she came out the other day and said she'd only sold a few copies of a specific book, and the platforms didn't match up. You could, if you were following her, you could see one persona versus the other. She needed to separate it out, keep your books separate, keep your professional separate, unless they are something that links quite closely. Lily Lucchese is one of my editors, who is just absolutely gorgeous. She is Partners in Crime, I think, editing. She has her authoring platform and her editing platform off the same persona on Facebook that works really, really well for her because she is able to balance that out. And she has some personal stuff in there about her family as well. However, her websites are separate. And it works really, really well to see good, clean branding because the website, the branding for the editing part is not the same as the branding for her pen names. So having that separated out means that you're driving different traffic to different websites. So think about who the people are that you're attracting and whether or not they're the same people. If they're not the same people, then you might be able to split it up. If you're attracting the same people to both platforms, join it together. I'm just going to go back through that chat moved on me. Damn it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can't keep this one. Stay still for me. If we're allowed to share our sites, if we write in more than one genre to show how others set it up, absolutely. If you've got something you want to show off, go for it. Spiritual book, non-denomination, I just keep it with your romance. It sounds like it's something that could probably go with it, unless you feel that your romance, MJ, is too dark or too much to go with something like that. If you've got a gut feeling, probably go with it. Would you recommend creating a different pen name for adult romance and YA romance, or is the same pen name adequate? If your worlds are joined together, don't split them up. If you're aiming at traditional publishing, absolutely. Traditional publishing wants a specific market for YA. It is really very specific. I'm helping a friend get her work published at the moment, and I've learned so much about YA that I never needed to know because I don't write it. But geez, it is a whole new minefield of its own. If you have something like Sarah J. Maas that traverses YA, NA, and then through to adult, I would keep it the same. If it is not, and your YA is clean and your romance is steamy, steam is a great reason to break stuff up. It just depends what you feel like you can do. If you feel that you cannot handle more than one pen name, don't do anything. Keep it all the same, simply because one's going to suffer or they both will. So whatever you can do, try. Don't give yourself a million pen names. If I could come back, I would just have 2 pen names that I'd be using plus a kidlit one. So I would rearrange what I've done, but now that I've set those platforms up, I'm sticking with them simply because I am stubborn. Would you suggest different names if you cross genres, social media, TikTok? Yes, you're supposed to have one for everything. I've rolled all of my websites into one because I was paying $450 a year for a website that got 0 traffic because my kidlit is charity and I don't get any money from it at all. So it wasn't working for me at all. So I simply rolled it into what I've got, and I'm going to separate my heat level books with an R18 warning for different series pages, and my kidlit is clearly kidlit, and hopefully that works. If it doesn't work and I get 3 years into this and it's not doing something for me the way I want it to, or 6 months or whatever I choose at the time, I will change it up. But for now, that's the plan. So only take on the workload that you can do plus your writing, because otherwise nothing's going to work for you. I'm writing dark erotica and horror, able to keep them together. Yep, good call. Also run design, business and services tab that links to the person if asked about. Yes, absolutely. From my erotica name that's not out yet, it's a one-way trip. You can only get to her if you come backwards from her through erotica, PNR, me, Joe. It's a one-way trip through socials. You cannot get from my kidlit to the erotica. So it is only if you know what's going on can you see that. Simply because I don't want people who are purely into kidlit to be offended by something else that I write. We know this can happen. However, obviously people that read erotica also can buy kids' books if they've got someone to gift for or they've got their own children. Celeste is my established pen name. Yeah, that looks good, Celeste. I can see why you've done that. Yeah, it's coming. I'm working on it at the moment. Yeah, absolutely. Whatever you do in your author business, make sure that you have a business reason and the tools and the knowledge to back up your choices. Don't do anything as an ego choice. If somebody has a PA and you really want one, but you don't know why you need one, you're wasting your $200 a month or whatever you're going to pay them. If you feel that you have to be traditionally published by Big Five in order to be an author, it is probably not your best choice because you haven't looked at why you're doing this. If it is simply for validation, it will cripple you emotionally if it doesn't work out. have plans and have backup plans for things. I've got books that are out on submission with traditional publishing. They've got 2.5 years. If nothing happens with them, I pull them and I self-publish them because they are still on brand for me, but they are targeted directly at specific publishers that I'm aiming for because I want to broaden my audience. If you don't know why you're making a choice, rethink it. Sit down. You don't have to do a full marketing plan. They freak me out at the best of times, and I've just done one for my alpaca business because I needed to for the bank. And honestly, just write down a couple of lines about why you are doing something. Have a look at what your business choices are and think about where you're heading and how you've got to get there. If you have a goal but you don't know how to get to it, then you need to find that bridge in the gap. And a lot of it will be your author branding because that is how you get readers to your book. They'll give you all the options and income and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to be this person that it took me 20 years to get published. I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. I've got too many other things going on. And by that time, hopefully I will have grown and had other options out there as well. Most of my reasoning for going trad is because there's two reasons. One is I write too fast for my editors and I need to offload some to other things. The other one is that I would like the distribution into places like Target and Walmart and Coles and Kmart and things like that, places that I can't as an Aussie get into and that I can't get into. So I want to look at other ways of getting my books out there without having to pay someone to go door to door knocking on bookshop tables and trying to sell my book for me in a country that I don't live in. So hopefully that will help spread that out. Again, if I get to the end of a contract and it's not working, I will pull the book. It's got to be a beneficial relationship for everyone. If you have an agent, they should be guiding you with that. If they aren't, then they need to step up. She is a brand new agent. She is a backlist agent. She has gotten me 16 deals with translations and apps in the last 4 months that I've signed with her. She's fantastic. I really love her. I am taking her into new submissions this year. So she hasn't done it before with Big Five. So we're looking at how to do that together for her. And she's growing and I'm growing and hopefully it works out together. So an agent, there are lots of different sorts of agents. Mine is not an editorial agent. She's a backlist agent. I wanted translations and I didn't want to pay for them. That's the bottom line. So she is my backdoor into that. And she also is my bridge between any publisher who doesn't take unsolicited submissions as well, because there's quite a few of those. But we work out what we're doing with it as well. So again, that's a different part of my branding. And I did have to sit down at the beginning of this year and think it through because I have so many different little lanes going that some of them started to drop off and I needed to make sure that I had enough time to write these things every month, that I had time to write my PNR every month and send it off to Evernight, that I had time to do all my pre-orders for this year, get them sorted because I had COVID back in November and I basically woke up on Christmas Eve, which is my birthday, and realised I'd had 4 book launches and I hadn't done anything. So it's that brain fog's been with me for a couple of months. So you still need to make sure you have time for everything and that while these things happen, you're still actually managing your author business. Otherwise it will flop down a little bit and then you've got to start from scratch again to pick it back up, which is a pain in the backside. All right. Now that I've rambled, is there anything else?
I think you've been covering a lot of information. I'm hoping that the recording doesn't have some of the problems, and I don't know because I never know if the issue is my internet or somebody else's, but this is being recorded to the cloud. So I'm hoping that comes out a little bit more clear. So to recap a little bit, if I may, pardon me?
I was going to say, if there is anyone who has questions that something's dropped out, just hit me in the chat or on my inbox. My inbox is always open, so I'll just answer quietly.
Okay, but to recap, and catch me if I'm wrong or if I missed something, but it sounds to me as if what you're saying for whatever pen name you have, be very clear as to what is included in that particular pen name. In your case, you have veterans and you have, I forget the other two things that you had in that one particular pen name.
That one is suspense, romance, and veterans. Yeah.
Okay. So, and you it either includes one or all three of those or some combination of those. And that if you were going to be doing something totally different, maybe a different pen name for that and separate that out. And then for whatever branding you have on a particular pen name, be consistent about how your covers appear, how your name appears on those covers, how your author profile is on places like Amazon and Draft to Digital, et cetera, and also how you present yourself at events or when you go out, if you're presenting yourself as an author. Yeah, I know. I hear about authors saying that they have to be their author self, and I'm thinking, gosh, isn't that me? But I don't know. Maybe I just am in there. Although, you know, I have to say, writing the historical, I'm not going to put on my Indian dress, my leather Indian dress that my husband made for me and go out in public like that. But okay, so that has to do with a pen name consistency on your colors, your branding on that. And if you have a separate, something totally different that doesn't cover any of that, as I was seeing in the chat, you know, like hot and heavy romance or erotica versus kidlit, maybe you do need to have that completely separated. And then you were also talking about consistency on perhaps what you're traditionally publishing versus what you aren't traditionally publishing, or if they're still can fit into a brand, give it some time and then pull it if it's not going, or if it's been going fine but has been falling off and now the contract's over, you know, decide if you're going to renew that contract or pull that. Did I hit the highlights there? What did I miss?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a question there that says that I said I'm not a fan of TikTok and how much social media do I use and does it vary by genre? My procrastination is marketing, so I do a fair bit of it because I should be writing and I'm not. But generally speaking, if you struggle with a platform and you absolutely hate it, it's probably not the platform for you. Be cautious of how much time you invest in socials. And the other thing I want to talk about there is numbers. If you're a stats girl like me, I've run off spreadsheets and stats for a long time. Oh,
you just cut out.
Am I back? Did that
volume? Okay. I have no volume.
All right, let's try that again.
Okay, everybody can hear you but me. It must be me. Oh.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if everybody can hear you, go ahead. I'll pick it up later.
With numbers, okay. All right, with numbers for your social media or for any statistic that you use, like your newsletter or your subscribers, your followers on an account, none of it matters if they aren't active. If you have 4,000 or 10,000 followers on Twitter, but only 2 people heart your comment every time you make one or you post something, those numbers are stale. They look pretty. It looks established, but they don't actually mean anything because you're not getting any engagement, which means that if you're not getting engagement, you won't get any sales off or enough clicks off that. That platform won't automatically show you something. My Twitter sucks. It looks pretty, but it sucks. And I'm mostly on there because I've got a couple of chats with friends who are on submission that I like to talk to and make sure that I understand what's going on in the publishing industry. My Instagram is semi-okay. I get a couple of clicks on those. My main platform is Facebook and my newsletter. My newsletter would be my strongest, and Facebook, for whatever reason, is randomly behaving well for me. So I work with that and I do ads on there and things like that. So it for whatever reason, that one happens to work for me. So that's where I put most of my effort. I do need to put more effort into my Instagram. I see a lot of people doing well on there. But it just depends what you do. I I have setting aside a day a week to work on TikTok to try and push it out. And I want to do a little experiment for a few weeks and see if I can get my post to go viral. I have considered making a new account because I've heard that suppressed accounts don't perform as well and will continue to perform poorly. I've got girlfriends down the coast who have earned $70,000 in 1 month from TikTok. So to me, yep, that's worth getting over my own humps and working through that platform. But if it doesn't work out for me, I'm not going to continue wasting a huge amount of time on it, but I will put a solid amount of time into growing it if it is going to do something for me as well. Depending on, I don't really cross genres that much with advertising, so I can't say I only advertise, Sophia. I'm sorry. So that would be one just to ask in a general chat maybe, or maybe in the group. Yeah, there's a comment there about I'm not particularly young, but my contemporary readers are. Know who your readers are. The best way to do it is to do a boosted post, do a very general boosted post on Facebook, put in a couple of targets like romance, Kindle, and maybe a couple of demographics that you think your readers might do. Like my book, the book that's behind me is a reality TV book. So my advertising includes demographics of reality TV shows like Bachelor, Something in Paradise. I picked out whatever Facebook threw at me to test out, and they performed really, really well. It then will give you over a week or two the demographics of the people who are clicking on that, if they're male or female, mostly where they're from, within one country, and the age group. Have a look at who's clicking on it, have a look at who's buying it. So use those and see who your readers are, and you might find across different series that you have different demographics as well.
Yeah, I have to say that Facebook is really great for data mining.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be expensive. You don't have to throw hundreds of dollars at it to get a response, which is even better. In my opinion, I don't want to test something that's not working.
Yeah, absolutely. So do we have any other questions or comments? If it isn't easy to put in the chat, you can unmute yourself and ask a question straight out. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Yeah, Instagram and TikTok. I'm not interested in either one of them personally, but then, you know, it's just you have a very good point on making sure that you have time to devote to stuff. And I find even the amount of time I devote to the Facebook group sometimes is a little bit overwhelming, making sure that I have consistent posts and am answering people and things of that nature. So, okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel about things like Wix groups for brand?
I don't know what Wix groups are, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I use Wix for my website, but I haven't used it for branding, and I don't. There's some great info about using your website as your newsletter provider. Because I'm on Wix and I pay for the basic level or whatever their level is to keep it private, I have been hacked 3 times now. I refuse to run my newsletter through it because I'm worried about leaking privacy and data, which is against several little GDPR laws. So I don't do that, but a lot of people, and I know Craig from 20 Books recommends it in Capstone, so that might be one to definitely look at if you've got WordPress or something that's a really solid site as well. I think it keeps moving. I'm reading and it keeps moving on me. It's like Facebook, but on your website. No, I'm sorry, I haven't used it and I don't know anything about it. I'm not particularly tech savvy, which is why I can't work the chat. Your social media for readers as authors is your face to the public. We do need to connect and engage. We do need to spread information, but to me personally, the best thing about Facebook, and I'm hoping Paul is going to back me here, is that I find it's the most brilliant place for networking. I find that other platforms aren't as solid for networking. There are so many great Facebook groups where you can, again, mine data from and information. The 20 Books group, you can go through files and pull everything you're ever going to need to know about the mechanics of launching. and rapid releasing and strategies and pricing. Wide for the Win is a huge group with all their little subsidiaries as well, which are fantastic. If you've got books that are wide, I do both. There are so many amazing groups out there that you can use to get information from, connect with other writers, find way into shared worlds, or through anthologies like we do for Romance Cafe. There are so many amazing groups out there, and I would say that you will get more out of networking than you will to talking to readers. If you're going to use social media for just a social face, your public accounts develop people who can go out and share your books on your behalf.
Okay, so talking about the social media here, Sophia, now I know that when I opened the Facebook account under Paula Judith Johnson, of course, that was originally for readers. Then I opened up the group Romance Dream Weavers for authors. And I have to admit, shame on me, I hardly ever post on Paula Judith Johnson. I hardly ever do that. It's like, I know I should be engaging more there. Any advice on what a person should do, what an author should do if they have like the Facebook group for readers and they really just have abandoned it?
Lift your engagement. You need to post a couple of times a day, and you need to post content that is going to relate enough to your readers that they will start to see it. And it probably takes doing that every day for maybe 3 or 4 weeks. We did this with a local writers group. My local writers group that I run is 220 people, and it's died many times in the last 5 years. We have revamped it several times, and we're rebranding it at the moment. I brought on another girl, which is fantastic, and we have had teams in place to lift engagement with memes, with games, with responses. So for the authors, it was things that they were doing, what they're writing about at the moment, what they hated about, what their imposter syndrome was about. And we made jokes out of it. You can do exactly the same with your reader group with readers. Nobody there has actually read your books. It's not going to work, and the engagement will suck. Use something that is good fun for them. For me, part of my brand is my alpacas. Everybody's known that I was getting alpacas. Now that they're here, every now and then I post up a video of Nadea licking the camera face or whatever, or somebody sneezing on me, which is fantastic and a bit gross, but that it's fun, and I get a lot of responses from them. I love Tom Hiddleston, so he gets a lot of memes and some fun stuff. There was a post of him reading Einstein's formula, and just the sound of his voice, oh my god. Anyway, it got a lot of reactions because it was fun. He's obviously done it as a bit of a lark, as something meant to be serious.
Okay, all right.
He's had a bit of lift engagement wonderfully. Videos do lift engagement if you have the bandwidth to upload them. There was one there. I'm writing magical romance with adventure and magical elements. I'm struggling to work out what my brand should look like. So you want something that, so if you're looking at your brand, look at what colors. So magical elements, romance, adventure, and magical. Are you in fantasy? If you're in fantasy, look at the colors in your best way to do it. Put in the categories that you think your book would fit best in on Amazon, and go and have a look at the top 50 books. Then go stalk those authors, join a couple of newsletters, get on their websites, have a look at their colors, and start taking notes. How many of them have purple, pink, green, blue, whatever? What sort of, are they sans serif fonts? Are they clean fonts? Are they, what sort of covers? Are they object covers or people covers? Are they clothed? Are they half clothed? To pick out all the information you can about what works to market for those. And then if you've got something that is a little bit you, like I love my rose gold, so that's part of my branding, that is a part of my branding. It's got nothing to do with romance at all. It's just something I like because I know that I'm going to use those colors when I dress. So take what's to market and then add a little bit of you in. So channeling Iron Man there, it's all a little bit me. But make it about you. Make it something that people will identify with your books. That's a Robin cover, that's Robin's website. Sorry, Robin, you're right next to me on the little thing there, so I've just picked you out. newbie. So each author must have a website for each author name. Yes and no. I rolled mine into one because I couldn't deal with the cost of having them separate, and mine are separate but close enough that I can do that. And have a look at what you want to do, just like all the socials and the pen names. Work out what you want to do and what you can afford to do, because if you can't afford it, there's no point paying for a $600 website every month or year or whatever. It's bound to be very time consuming. You manage a group on your website. Yeah, I don't know how that works. I'm sorry. Discord is a lot of fun once you figure it out. It took me about 2 years. Sorry about that. And there's a whole heap of other tools and bits and bobs. Yeah, there are so many things. Hootsuite. I've heard a lot about Hootsuite. I don't use it, but yes, I've heard a lot about that as a fabulous app as well. So absolutely. TweetDeck is great if you're managing tweets. If you're overseas or whatever, you're doing pitch fests, you can schedule all your tweets with TweetDeck, and it's really fast, really fast. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. And Linda, if you have other questions about that, connect with me on Facebook, and you know, we'll discuss it. Kind of a little side conversation going there. Okay. Any other questions for Sofia? I really appreciate your time, Sofia. Okay.
No, that's okay.
A lot of thank yous there.
Enjoy doing it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you, everyone.
I think we've hit our time limit, so I thank everyone very much, and we'll have a replay posted tomorrow, and then I also send it out into the newsletter for anybody who's on the newsletter list. Okay. Thank you very much.